Good morning, everybody. Sorry, we got a little late in starting over here. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. I have Dr. Karim over here from TDU. My name is Milind Badian, and I work at the A3 Academy. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen, and then we can get started. Okay, so let's, I hope I'm sharing the right screen. Hang on one second. Okay, Karim, can you see my presentation on the screen?
Yeah, clear it is. Only thing you have to come in the slide mode.
I'll do that. I'll do that. So just go on like this. Okay, so welcome everybody, and we thought we'd have this last webinar, hopefully to answer any remaining questions that are there for anybody who is planning to apply. So just quickly before we get to a little bit of detail about the program itself and answering some of your questions, I just thought I'll take a slight detour, right? So I want to tell a short story, a couple of minutes, I promise, not much more. So why conservation practice, right? And I want to tell you a story from Kodaikanal. So Kodaikanal was once an area that was dominated by these special kind of forests called sholas and grasslands. So sholas would grow in the sheltered areas and the grasslands in the exposed areas. And in the 50s, the forest department started planting these grasslands with acacia, with acacias and a couple of other species, but mostly acacias, which you can see the trees over here, right? Now, the reason they planted this is because they were looking to, the grasslands were viewed as areas that were not producing trees and therefore not producing anything that could get them revenue, right? And in the process, of course, forgetting that the grasslands themselves have a certain biodiversity value. The second reason they were doing this is at that time, South Africa was actively practicing apartheid, and India, in its anti-apartheid policy, banned the import of tannin from South Africa. And so they tasked the forest department and they said, we want you now to produce tannin so that we can use it in our leather industry. And tannin comes from acacias. So the forest department in South India went on a large scale to the grasslands and started planting these up with these acacias. So that started in the 50s in different parts in South India, and especially in the Nilgiris and the Annamalais and Palnis, which is where Kodaikanal is. When we come to this, so by the time we come to the 80s, which is about 30 years later, the wattles have really grown, right? And at some point, they started becoming invasive. They actually started growing by themselves and started propagating by themselves and started taking over the grasslands, right? And it was one of my colleagues actually said, I don't think anybody has actually done a scientific study on this and tried to assess this. So a few years back, a couple of colleagues sat down and we said, let's try to see what the change that we can find that has happened in Kodaikanal over the last 40 years, right? And so we looked at satellite images, and what you can see over here in the top left-hand corner, that is Kodaikanal in 1973. The light green is the grasslands, the dark green is the forest or the shola forest, and the little bit of purple that you see is the plantation. And there are also settlements over there in a lighter pink. And you see, as time goes by, two things happen, or rather three things happen. You see the plantations really accelerate, right? So 1981, 93, 2003, and then this jump from 2003 to 2014 in the plantations, which is this purple color over here. The settlements are also growing. That's the pink over there. But what is really lost, there's not much change in the sholas, which we, if you've noticed here, and we've also quantified it. But what you really see disappearing is the grasslands. And this surprised even us when we were looking at it as researchers, is how could a change happen so rapidly and so dramatically, right? Now, that's one side of the story. That's coming from a researcher's perspective. At the same time, there was a group of lawyers who was nature enthusiasts and very active hikers, and they were hiking through this landscape, and they had been doing so for many years, and they had also noticed this change that was taking place. And one of them filed a court case in the Madurai bench of the High Court and said that a lot of the grasslands are being lost to these invasive species, and something needs to be done about it, right? So two different forces came together. That is one of us as researchers publishing this, and also in terms of the public interest litigation that's taken place, or that's actually still in the courts. And as a result, the government of Tamil Nadu passed an order that all the invasives need to be removed from this landscape, and especially acacia. Great result, right? But then the challenge came is, which are the areas? Do we just remove all of them? Because this costs money. You need money to actually restore a landscape, and the area that we're talking about is in hundreds of squares of kilometers, right? It's not a small area, and so requires an enormous amount of money. And so as researchers, we then turn to say, okay, can we now use the same tools to try to identify restoration sites? Right. And then at the same time, on the other side, coming from the legislation side or from the court's perspective, the forest department started having these public consultations. Even one as late as last month, we had a virtual consultation with the Tamil Nadu Forest Department, and some of us were invited to present our work, to present what we are learning, to present what we are finding, right? And the reason that I wanted to share the story is basically what you have is a coming together of different groups of people, right? There are researchers, there's the Indian Forest Service, there are media people, journalists, there are lawyers and people in the legal system. And all of these are now trying to come together to do something for restoration and conservation in the landscape, right? So I just wanted to share this brief story on why the practice of conservation is very different from the theory of conservation, because of the number of actors that are involved and the number of stakeholders that are involved. And that is what I think makes this program really fascinating. So when we started out planning this program, that's why we came up with this vision statement that we see over here. Is we said that we want to create a group of people that can think and apply interdisciplinary approaches in solving the problems that we are currently confront us. And as a result, the structure of the course is designed in that way. You start with an interdisciplinary foundation because we accept people from any background: science, non-science, the arts, commerce, engineering, and we provide an interdisciplinary foundation. And from then on, once we have built this foundation, we then equip students with different perspectives so that they can understand the different actors in the landscape. What are their approaches? What are their backgrounds? Why are they acting in a certain way? What are the reasons that drive their actions also? And from there, going to semester 3, the different skills that you're going to actually need in the practice of conservation. And finally, the 4th semester is reserved for your thesis research or your internship at an organization that works in this field. I'm just going to hide this. I don't know if you're not able to see my screen because of this.
It's clear.
It's clear? Okay. Okay, so and so here, just a short slide on the structure of the course itself. Like I was saying, we have our foundations courses that come in the first semester, including courses on the philosophy of science and practice, and then moving in the second semester to these perspectives and trying to understand how different actors think, and then moving from there onto the different skills that a student needs, and then finally the electives and the thesis. So this is a small breakup of the fee over here for those of you who are interested in it. Because of the pandemic and the impact that it has had on a number of families, personally, professionally, financially, we have made an adjustment to that and have decided to offer an option where the first semester fees can be paid in 2 equal installments to make it easier for people to cover the costs of this program. Aside from the usual classroom space and the lab space that many institutions have, I also wanted to highlight both TDU's medicinal plant conservation areas and ATRI's field station. Both of these are tremendous assets for actually learning the practice of conservation and getting an understanding of the reality of what happens on the ground as different from what you learn in a conservation. And this is what really excites us about this course. And then just a couple of slides, a small overview on the faculty who you'll be learning from. This is the faculty in ATRI, as you can see, diversity of expertise, diversity of backgrounds, diversity of knowledge that these faculty bring to teaching. And the same is true for the faculty who will be teaching from the transdisciplinary university also. A lot of questions often come back on why do we or what is my job security after this, right? And we are working on those different options, but I wanted to point back once again to the success of ATRI's PhD program, which we've had for over 10 years now, and we have about 50 students, more than 50 students enrolled. They are very they're very prolific in their publications, which is a big metric of being a research scholar. Not so much for a master's student. We have different expectations for our master's students. They've also won a lot of fellowships and awards. They've secured external funding, and most importantly, they've gone on to institutions that are recognized across India and across the world. They've gone to academia, they've gone to universities, they've gone to research organizations, they've gone to field organizations that work in the field, and practitioners. So wide diversity of organizations that have now hired our students. And with that, I will stop sharing my screen, and maybe if Kareem also, Kareem, if you could just turn on your camera, and if there are any questions, we would be happy to take them. You can, I think you can enter them in the Q&A box, if I'm not wrong. So go ahead and enter them there, and we can take those questions from there. Kareem, is there anything you wanted to add in terms of the program?
No, I think we have briefed it very clearly, and so we'll expect questions if at all is there.
Okay, yes. And we do have one big announcement as you're typing out the questions. We have decided to give a small extension in the application deadline. So the application deadline has now been extended to the 3rd of Friday for those who are rushing to meet the timeline, just to give you an opportunity. We're extending that deadline today, effective today. It'll be extended to next Friday, which is the 3rd of September. Classes will start on the 4th of October. So all your admissions process will finish in the month of September itself. So Shweta has a question. She says, what is the qualifying marks for the examination? What's the criteria for selection? Yeah, Shweta, thanks. A couple of maybe one thing to consider is that we do have an entrance examination, you're right, but the scoring is not determined by the entrance examination itself. It is determined by across three different things. So there is the entrance examination. You will be asked to submit a statement of purpose, and there are explicit directions on the website on how you can write an effective statement of purpose. And that will be evaluated by a panel, and then there'll be an interview. So those three elements come together to actually make a decision on your admission itself. So I hope that answers your question. So it's not just the examination, which is why we're not specifying a qualifying marks per se, primarily because different people have different ways of being evaluated that they perform better at. Some work better at interviews, some work better at writing, some better at examination, which is why we have all those three. Question from Harshit. Harshit, good to hear from you again. I wanted to know whether the results for the first batch of applicants are announced. You should be getting a result very, very soon. As far as I know, it should be hopefully within a day. You should have results, and yeah, I hope that answers your question. Any other questions? Okay, so there's a question for scholarships from Shweta. I'll start, and then maybe if Dr. Kareem has something, he can also add something. So, in as a new program at this year, we do not have any scholarships, but we're working on options for scholarships, and hopefully, we should have some options for the next year. But nothing available at the moment. I don't know, Dr. Kareem, maybe if you have.
At this stage, we don't have any scholarship. But yes, we are also working hard in such a way that we can get it. In the process, if something comes, we'll immediately let you know.
Definitely. Yeah. Thanks.
We hope soon you apply and come on through exams and other things that are fast. Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to add that, looking at the first batch of applicants, Shweta, I know your name was not listed over there. We're very excited. We have a very diverse group that has applied and that has made it through the process, and we're really excited about the diversity of the group that's going to come and the diversity that's going to learn. It's going to make a very interesting cohort from the backgrounds that people are coming from. Very strong interest in the field also. So it's going to be a really looking forward. Sorry, Kareem, I think you broke up over there. I didn't hear you clearly.
Yeah. So
Sorry, Kareem, I think we lost you briefly there.
No, I was just saying there was a good combination. Could you hear me now?
Yes, now I can.
And there was a good combination from engineers to educators to biologists to zoologists to foresting to ecologists. It was a good combination of all these categories, and yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah, so I think another thing that Neha has mentioned in the chat box over here is to talk about the career prospects, and just want to mention to you that this is something also that we're very excited about. We're talking to different organizations that are looking or would consider our students both for internships and for placements, and these are across a wide variety of everybody from practitioners to possibly line departments. There's many different options that we think our students will be able to take after they finish this program. It's not only that we are expecting our master students to go on to PhD programs. There may be some who are interested in doing that, but the primary aim of this master's program is to create the interdisciplinary training for those who want to join the job force immediately after the masters, and that's the way that we have geared the training.
I would just also like to add on that your last semester project plays a crucial role also, and we'll try to see that you have been put into the places where the institutions or companies who require this sort of things. We'll try to negotiate with them, talk to them, and see that your internship has been placed there, or with our research programs both in ATRI and TDU, which is going on, the projects and other things. We'll try to see that. That's what we're planning on that, in such a way that the moment when you finish your 6 months internship or your project work, you go on the line in which you like as such, and you make your career stronger in that. Yeah, that's what we're thinking on. Maybe in a year or two, we'll understand your interest, and then accordingly, we'll see that you are going on that line of your interest.
Yeah, I think that's a very helpful detail, Kareem. Thanks for adding that also. Yeah, I think we're almost out of time. If there's no remaining questions, Shweta, I don't know if you were typing any last questions. I want to thank everybody who attended the webinar, and thank you, Kareem, also for being available. It's looking forward to applications, and looking forward to seeing you in class also.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your time. Thanks, Kareem. Thanks. Bye.